am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.
Hello there, Price of Reason here with a movie review. This week I've had the chance to watch an early screening of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, Mutant Mayhem, and in this video I will discuss the general plot of the movie, followed by my thoughts about the movie itself. At some point in the video, before I go into spoiler territory, I'll also give you an advance warning in case that kind of stuff is important to you, and if you enjoy these type of exclusive movie reviews, make sure to subscribe and get notifications. And with that out of the way, let's begin. For those who are not aware, Mutant Mayhem is a brand new theatrical animated reboot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise, produced and co-written by Seth Rogen. In this version, like in most versions we've seen throughout the years, the Turtles live in the sewer with their adoptive father, Splinter the Rat. But from there, the movie is very different than what we've seen in the past. Here, the Turtles themselves are rather inexperienced at fighting crime, and they befriend April O'Neil, who in this movie is a high school student who fancies herself an amateur reporter. With the city being terrorized by a mutant called Superfly, the Turtles and April decide to capture him and his mutant minions and bring them to justice. However, after they meet him, the Turtles feel a connection with Superfly and the other mutants, as just like them, they were all created from the same secret ooze that was initially concocted by scientist Baxter Stockman. But when it turns out that Superfly wants to build a machine that will help him take control of New York City and destroy many humans in the process, the Turtles decide that they have to stop him. And now that we've covered the general plot, the big question is this movie any good? And my answer to that is, it depends. If you like Seth Rogen's brand of humor, and you're looking to see a very Seth Rogen-style reimagining of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then I suppose that you may like this movie. On the other hand, if you actually care about the Ninja Turtle franchise, if you like the older comics, movies, or animated shows from the past, then you will likely be extremely disappointed with this movie. Mutant Mayhem always feels silly, like it doesn't take itself seriously at all, and it's filled to the rim with Seth Rogen's typical self-deprecating meta humor and childish jokes. Now, back in the day, that type of writing may have been suitable for Seth Rogen's stoner comedies, but here in this movie, it doesn't fit at all. If I had to describe exactly how I felt while watching it, I would say that it seemed like a much less clever and less enjoyable version of the Lego Batman movie, but with Ninja Turtles. And this annoyed me for a few different reasons. While Lego IP movies are usually known for their ability to constantly poke fun at themselves, Seth Rogen's Mutant Mayhem is not a Lego movie. It's billed and presented as a legitimate entry into the actual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise, so in that sense, it actually feels like a rather annoying bait and switch. While some of the Turtle adaptations we've seen over the years have been better than others, there was always an effort to at least try and respect the actual source material. Even Michael Bay's rather forgettable and underwhelming movie adaptations at least did the very minimum to adhere to the franchise mythology, and yes, I would unironically watch Michael Bay's Turtle movies before rewatching Seth Rogen's without even thinking twice. Now at this point, I'm going to go into some more specific details about what I didn't like about the movie, which means that there will be spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so if you're still here are the issues that I had with the movie. Number 1, the Turtles. In all the adaptations we've seen to date, the Turtles usually take their fighting seriously. Even if they are at times a bit humorous and playful, they usually seem rather confident and competent. While each of them have certain strengths, flaws, and unique skills, they also show real respect towards Splinter, who is their caretaker but also their mentor. In this movie, they are pretty much the exact opposite of everything I just said. They always seem like these insecure, weak losers and never really exude confidence and never convince you that they've taken charge of a situation. The Turtles also don't seem to do a lot of fighting in this movie, and when they do, it all looks rather lackluster. And for some reason, the Turtles constantly treat Splinter with extreme disrespect, like he's some kind of nuisance. And to make matters worse, they always act and talk like a cross between Seth Rogen, 5-year-old children, and weirdos on TikTok. I suppose that Rogen thought this was a good idea because it would appeal to modern audiences, but by making the Turtles this way, he's really stripped away their identities or agency. Number 2, Splinter. In all the previous adaptations, Splinter carries himself in a very wise and official way. He's a figure of authority that commands the respect of the Turtles, who are also his students. In this movie, Splinter is a complete joke, and while I like Jackie Chan who voices him, I think he wasn't properly utilized here at all. In addition to being an anti-human grouch, his version of Splinter always acts like a buffoon, constantly trying to appease the Turtles when they complain to him. To add insult to injury, at the end of the movie, Splinter is seen making out with Scumbug, and then professing his love for Scumbug, who he seemingly enters into a relationship with. Now that in and of itself is already out of character for Splinter as we've known him for years, as it just doesn't seem like something that he would do. But then later, after researching the character posters for this movie, and also consulting with Tom from Midnight's Edge, I've come to the conclusion that they've decided to present Splinter in this movie as an LGBT character. A creative decision that I disagree with, since he's never been presented that way in the 40 years that this franchise has existed. Now, I'll admit that it was done in a somewhat ambiguous and quiet way. I also sense that with recent developments with company like Target and Budweiser, this aspect of the movie seems to have been toned down, and although initially there were a few places that posted posters for Scumbug presenting him as a male, they're not as widespread as some of the other posters we see online. But the poster does exist, and I believe that it's genuine, so I guess there's really no other way to interpret it. Make of that what you will. Number 3, April O'Neil. In most previous adaptations, April is a grown-up, smart, competent, and confident reporter who also looks appealing. This movie completely abandons every one of these characteristics and seemingly uses the character to check off a bunch of quota boxes. To state the obvious, she's more diverse now, but she's also more, body positive? And while I realize that this creative decision may not be popular with all fans, for me the main issue is that the character is very poorly written. She's insecure on the one hand, and that's just because she's the best and other people don't realize it. And it makes her so nervous that she sometimes even barfs green vomit, which adds to the already dumb atmosphere of the movie. And while I don't like what Seth Rogen has done with this character at all, I suppose this could have possibly been a setup for some type of character arc. But the only real arc she has is that by the end of the movie, all the Turtles are madly in love with her and keep telling her that she's the best. So much so that she stops barfing green vomit, and her schoolmates write on her locker that she's a hero and a girl boss. And yes, all of this really happens in the movie too. Number 4, the villain. Superfly, the main villain of this movie, is voiced by Ice Cube, and while I think that he actually gives a very solid voice performance as the character, I just didn't really like the writing of the character itself. There is something about Superfly that never really makes him seem like truly a menacing threat, and he himself reports to some other girl boss played by Maya Rudolph. At least I think he reports to her. But trust me, it doesn't even matter. Regardless, it's fair to point out that in a post-credits scene, Shredder is actually teased to appear in a potential sequel, but after seeing how they handled the Superfly villain as well as the other characters, it's pretty obvious to me that Shredder will end up being presented as a joke too. Number 5, the Mutants. One of the cool things about the past adaptations is that at least initially, the Turtles along with Splinter are introduced as the only mutants, which makes them more unique. While there are eventually other mutants in this universe, we don't immediately need to see them all at once because it's important to get to know the main characters first. However, in this movie, we're introduced to a group of about 15 mutants right out the gate. At first, they initially support Superfly, but by the end of the movie, they join Splinter and the Turtles, and in true Kumbaya fashion, they all end up living in the sewer together. All of these Seth Rogen, modifications ultimately remove a sense of real threat here in the movie, and when everything is so watered down and dumb, there are no real stakes. In past adaptations, you always sensed that the Turtles were up against real danger, but you never felt that in this version. Number 6, too many pop culture references. In Mutant Mayhem, every few minutes, you have all of these real-world pop cultural references. The Turtles apparently like Beyoncé, Adele, and Drake, and they think that Mark Ruffalo is a great actor. The movie also has some jokes about Chris Pine and Chris Evans, and it just feels like too much. Now, I know that in the original movies, there are a few pop culture references like Michelangelo doing a Stallone impression, and April O'Neil mentioning Harrison Ford. But whereas these references used to be used more moderately, Mutant Mayhem really seems like it's trying too hard in this department, and I really think that this aspect should have been toned down, because at some point it kind of takes you out of the movie. Number 7, the animation. I wasn't a big fan of the animation style of this movie. It seems like they were trying to take a page out of the Spider-Verse playbook and make it look more artsy, but the results here are mixed at best. There were some moments that it looked okay, but others where it was just too jittery in a way that becomes distracting. As far as box office goes, with a production budget of $80 million, I would think that if nothing else, this movie will not end up losing money. I assume that many parents that grew up watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will take their kids to see this movie, and perhaps some kids may even enjoy it, but this really isn't a bona fide Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. Maybe if this was just an animated Seth Rogen movie about 4 other teenage crime fighters, I would have liked it more. But if you're looking for a real Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles experience, then this movie probably isn't for you. And if you were considering watching it because you thought it would honor the franchise as created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, well, you may want to skip this one altogether. What do you think about Seth Rogen's modern-day Turtles? Are you excited to see them? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and also clicking on that wonderful notification bell. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.